When we showed up that first meeting, we didn't know who all these other men were. And that surprised us. And then the second thing was when we all arrived at the conference, not one time was Pastor Chuck ever recognized or thanked, let alone a time to bow all of our hearts and pray for his widow and his children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. That was very difficult. It's hard to get me angry, but I became angry. This guy we wanted to respect, and in 3 years he's never been respected or even mentioned at the conferences. Not one time was Pastor Chuck ever recognized or thanked.
Pastor Chuck, Pastor Chuck, Pastor Chuck, Pastor Chuck, Pastor Chuck, Pastor Chuck, Pastor Chuck.
Pastor Chuck, Chuck Smith, Chuck, Pastor Chuck, Chuck Smith, Chuck Smith, Chuck, Pastor Chuck,
Chuck, Pastor Chuck, Pastor Chuck, Pastor Chuck, Pastor Chuck.
And of course, this is very much the place we find ourselves in as Calvary Chapel pastors. In our immediate past, there's a great loss, the death of Pastor Chuck, who for long decades was used by God to provide us with such steady, godly leadership and such amazing, priceless, spiritual covering.
Chuck from the early days, things he did that some of you may not even know about. Let me ask you, would you allow a guy who was serving time in jail on the weekends to lead worship at your church? Chuck Smith did. The guy's name was Tommy Coombs, and he was in Love Song. Would you allow a man with serious holes in his theology to preach at your church at a midweek study? And in many of those services, people were being slain in the spirit. Would you allow that to continue? Chuck did. That man's name was Lonnie Frisbee. Would you let a guy do a 15-minute drum solo in a Bible study? And then get up afterwards and give a 15 to a 20-minute testimony, eating up precious time? Chuck did. The guy's name was John Mailer, the drummer from Love Song. Would you allow a punk rock band to come up on your stage with a lead guitar player with a mohawk running back and forth to perform? And then even more, would you get up on the stage and sing with them? Chuck Smith did. The band was called Undercover. Would you allow a guy who had only been a Christian for 3 years to start a church with your blessing and then write a check to get that church launched when this kid was 20 years old? Chuck did, and the kid's name was Greg Laurie. Now here's my point. Chuck was more flexible than a lot of people think he was. And a lot of us are getting kind of rigid in our old age. And I think we need to flex a little bit more.
And I know I feel that way coming along in this thing so many years after it began. So many seasoned men and women who have gone before and fought and blazed trails so that we could come along and stand on your shoulders and have it so good with so much handed to us. And so I believe in what the Bible says about showing honor where honor is due. And so for Pastor Chuck and Pastor Greg and Pastor Skip, so many of you, I see Pastor Ricky and just so many who time would fail, could we just young guys just give a moment and say thank you for all you've done. Thank you for those of you who have decades of ministry under your belt. Thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for holding the course. And thank you for believing and giving shots to young bucks like us. And we're endlessly grateful for you.